So it's Friday, January 19th, 2024. And today we're going to look at Milei. And many of you are kind of puzzled or kind of encouraged that he's actually in Davos and that he made a speech there. I'm going to give you my opinion on what that is all about. Before I do, though, just wanted to let you know I've created a new playlist called Book Recommendation Videos. A lot of you have asked me about doing videos about my favorite books. So there's about 19 videos there. So there's plenty of material there for you. And I just want to recommend a new book that I've been reading in the last week, and I haven't been able to put it down. It's a really good story about Britain during the Napoleonic Wars, and it's by Ken Follett, The Armor of Light. And what's so special about this book? Well, it shows that human nature never changes, that yes, despite the globalists trying to really take control of our lives, there are always people within different hierarchies who are good and bad. And I'm not saying there are good people in the globalist club, but there's also good and bad people all over. And the other thing that is very interesting about this book is that it links war and tyranny with inflation and exactly what's happening today. As the old French saying goes, the more things change, the more they become the same. So I highly recommend this book. It's kind of a historical fictional novel where the main characters of the story are fictional, but the main characters during the time, main characters in society are not fictional. For example, like King George III, Napoleon, and so on. So yeah, highly recommend it. Not only is it a good history book, but it's a good story. So back to the World Economic Forum, and what is Milei doing there? Seeing that he's opposed to everything the globalists want to do. The globalists want you to own nothing and be happy. They want stakeholder system, which is a melding between government and corporations, which is really fascism or oligarchy. On the other hand, Milei wants small government. He wants supposedly no central banks. He wants free market and money. He wants to abolish legal tender laws. He wants to really decapitate the power of politicians. He wants to separate corporations from business, as I said. So in Davos, you've got all the big corporate leaders and politicians and academia all meeting together, and media as well, for that matter. It's the complete opposite of what Milei supposedly stands for. And why do I say supposedly? Well, because I did cover Milei about 18 months ago when I found out that he'd been elected to the Argentine Parliament or Congress, whatever it's called, and that he was an Austrian school economist, that he wanted basically anarcho-capitalism, which I agree with. And ever since he won, though, he's been kind of a disappointment, even though I know we need to give him time to do what he needs to do. Argentina, of course, has been a basket case for, I'd say, at least 30 years, and has been on a downward spiral from a free and prosperous country in the early 1900s to, as I said, a basket case now. So it's not going to be fixed overnight. But why didn't he just abolish the central bank right off the bat? You know, that's what FDR did back in 1933 when he became president. he basically banned gold ownership right off the bat overnight. Why did he go to New York and meet Bill Clinton after he won the election? Why didn't he go down to Texas? His first visit to the U.S. should have gone to Texas and meet Ron Paul, who has been championing all the things he's been talking about. So now, he shows up in Switzerland at Davos, and I haven't listened to his speech because I know already what he espouses, and it just feels cringeworthy watching him there in front of all these people, Lagarde and Schwab and all the top globalists, right? So what is going on? Well, there's many things that we can speculate. One of them is that the World Economic Forum, of which I've spoken about many times. I've got playlists, a couple of them. One is Davos Man, and one is the globalists and the World Economic Forum. I've been warning about the World Economic Forum even before 2020. Well, one of them is that, one of the reasons why they invited him is because the theme of this year's World Economic Forum in Davos is rebuilding trust, which is funny because I don't think it's something they've ever had. Maybe they have trust with within their own club, but not with the public. So I think they thought, we bring in Milei to speak. Those people who are not really familiar with Milei but have heard a little bit about Milei will say, wow, the World Economic Forum is bringing this guy. They must be, wanting to change. But, there's an old saying about leopards and their spots, that they never change, their spots. And I think it's the same thing for the World Economic Forum. And I'm going to put a link to an article I wrote about the World Economic Forum back in the summer of 2020. I think they brought him in because they want to, for the general public to think that they actually care about you and freedom and small government. So now this guy who wants to wipe out the Peron system in Argentina is going to the place where they're trying to push it on the world. I think it's cognitive dissonance, really, to be honest. This is what it's all about. It's going to put doubt in a lot of people's minds, especially those people who want to do away with the World Economic Forum, who want to expose the World Economic Forum. So that's what I think about Milei in Davos. It's just basically, it's a psychological operation. And some of you might argue, well, maybe Milei is trying to keep his enemies close, right? There's the old saying. And maybe the World Economic Forum is trying to do the same. Yes, that's true. What else? Maybe Milei is naive and he thinks he can change things. I'm not sure about that. Maybe Milei is controlled opposition. Probably, or maybe. But I think, be as it may, for Argentina itself, we might need to give him a bit more time and see what he does. The older I get, the more kind of cynical I get. And I tend to, not believe people as much anymore, when they say something, especially politicians, because they come to power and they don't do what they promise, and they do sometimes the exact opposite. And I'm not bashing Trump here, but he did say he was going to lock up Hillary Clinton during the 2016 campaign. And then he was elected and became president, and he said, well, the Clintons have done a lot, they've been through a lot, I'm not going to lock her up. And the other thing he did that I thought was a little bit sneaky and not very honest was that during the COVID incident, he said, well, in a year's time. In a year's time, in that instance, was January 2021. I'm gonna take the United States out of the WHO. So that was just a political thing, because if he lost the election, the WHO would still be around, which they are. And yes, there is the debate about the 2020 election, but be as it may. So if he was really serious about taking the United States out of the WHO, he would have done it right away. So that's my view here on the World Economic Forum, on Javier Milei speaking to the globalists over there. And yeah, so I highly recommend you read my article about the World Economic Forum. You know, it is a globalist club. It was created with the help of the Rockefellers. Yes, because the Rockefellers' main agent was Henry Kissinger, and Henry Kissinger was a professor for Klaus Schwab at Harvard, I think in the late 60s. And yeah, Klaus Schwab's father, you'll find out what he did during the war if you read my article. So how do we fight the World Economic Forum? Well, we just try to keep exposing it for what it is. The other idea I had, and this is for the people in Switzerland, and I'm not sure if this is possible, is for them to get 100,000 signatures for a referendum. That's how many signatures you need to have a referendum in Switzerland. And that referendum would be to abolish or kick the World Economic Forum out of Switzerland. That's an idea. And you might say, well, they could go somewhere else. Yes, that's true. But it would put them in the limelight, I would say, if the Swiss people rose up against the WEF. So with that, let's quickly look at the markets this morning. And before we look at the markets, just wanted to talk a little bit briefly about the UK economy, which in my opinion I've said is in the doldrums, and the only reason why we have positive GDP is because they tinker with the numbers. Government spending is really high and it counts as part of the GDP. But today, things are starting to unravel, in my opinion, and they can't hide it anymore. British retail sales fall much more than expected in December. So we don't have industrial manufacturing economy anymore. We've got an economy based on consumer credit, borrowing, spending, real estate sector, government spending, as I said earlier. So retail sales, for example, were expected to drop by, expected to rise by 1.1% year on year in December, and they dropped by 2.4%. Even worse, month on month in December, they were expected to drop just by 0.5%, and they dropped by 3.2%. So I think that's a really bad signal. It's really tough situation for the government. Not that I expect them to do anything right. And the Bank of England as well. So we've got basically an economy that is in recession. And with prices still rising quite a bit, the Bank of England doesn't really have much reason to cut rates. And if they don't cut rates, I think prices are still going to keep going up, because the cost of financing things are going to keep going up, and that's going to permeate into prices of everything. And the other thing I saw is that even the top end of society, the 10% or even the 1%, they're starting to cut back I saw that watches of Switzerland yesterday, and thanks to Echo, who noted this, was down 30% during the day, and they sell luxury watches like Rolexes and Patek Philippe's. So that's a bad signal. It's not just the general public, the lower classes or the plebs that are in trouble, even the people at the top. So let's quickly look at the markets then. It's 8:30 a.m. London time. We've got gold or spot gold at 2026 is up $3. High's been 2030 and the low 2020. Silver's at 22.75. It's up 2 cents. So fairly quiet here. The stock market rallied quite well yesterday towards the end of the day. Always seems to do that, doesn't it? And we are near levels that are near the all-time high. So what's going on? Well, maybe the markets are forecasting some kind of pivot from the central banks. Who knows? But right now, the Dow futures is up 5 points. NASDAQ is up 64. And the S&P is almost back up to 4,800. It's at 47.88, up 8 points. The currencies, sterling is down 1/3%, 126.66. That's understandable with the weak data. The euro is unchanged, 108.69. The dollar is approaching 150 now in the yen. Yes, it's at 148.30, but it's rebounded quite a bit in the last few weeks. The dollar's pretty strong against the Swiss as well. We were down around 83 towards the end of last year. We're now at 86.90. It's up 1/8%. And the dollar is down slightly versus the yuan at 720. Aussie dollar unchanged, 65.75. Dollar is unchanged versus the loonie or Canadian dollar, 134.88. And the Kiwi dollar is down 1/4%, trading at 61. To the commodities, WTI crude. Well, that's continuing to rise here now at 74.20, up 1/3%. Brent is approaching 80. It's trading just above 79. Platinum, that's up $3, trading around 912. And high-grade copper is up 0.5% at 377. We'll quickly look at the bond markets. The 10-year yield is up 1 basis point at 4.15. So we've gone back up 4% now. The 2-year is unchanged at 4.36 or 4.35. So the difference there is still minus 20. And yeah, I think we're gonna go zero there, or we're gonna continue steepening, and we're gonna see this curve disinvert. And of course, that's going to be a signal that things are not good for the economy, as we've seen before. So with that, I'm going to wish you all a very good day. Take care. Bye.